Hi, it's Ileana, and today I am going to be discussing the topics of gray aliens and shadow governments. I'm doing a bit of consulting for a person who's learning about disclosure and the different facets of disclosure. So I was asked if I could provide some information on gray aliens and shadow governments, as well as recommend a list of books for them to read or some informational sources. So I've compiled what I think is some of the most good information, the most best information that I know of concerning gray aliens, shadow governments, and also the secret space programs, because that's part of shadow governments, the category. So I'm just going to be discussing the write-ups that I did about gray aliens, shadow governments, and the list of book recommendations. So tall grays have created an agenda where the smaller biorobotic gray drones that have limited emotions have been manipulating genetic manipulation of certain human races. Many of the smaller and shorter grays are not completely biological. They are either ET hybrids or are sophisticated self-aware machines created by a long-vanished extraterrestrial civilization that the grays have long outlived. Grays have had a quest to capture human souls with soul transference technology, where the energetic soul is taken out of the human body and put into an electromagnetic field container vessel to keep the soul alive before transference into a body. The original soul body is kept in a stasis pod. This type of information also appears in the historical record from biblical times. The secret space programs, planetary corporations in particular, also have soul catcher, soul transference technology that works in a similar way to what the grays do. The grays are seeking to master death by obtaining something humans possess that they do not. Souls. Through the manipulation of human DNA, these aliens hope to create their own souls and thereby escape the entropic grip of the material universe in favor of the timeless realm of spirit. Humans are very emotional, at least the humans on Earth. We have a wide range of emotion and spirit evolution. So the grays don't really have emotion or a good understanding of soul concept, at least the ones that are the robotic grays. Some grays are biological and they can be very spiritual. So there's a few myths about grays. There's tall grays, there's short grays, there's grays that are 5 feet tall. There's ET hybrid grays. So not all grays are the same, not all grays are alike. Some grays do have a spirit and a soul, and some don't. So that's an important distinction to keep in mind as well. Genetic manipulation of the human race on Earth and other biological humanoid species on other planets has been done by the grays since biblical times and has led to numerous negative qualities that plague humanity, such as violence, greed, and maliciousness. Racism was developed by the aliens to prevent their genetic experiments from being compromised by breeding with others outside their influence. Another interesting factor, it's not just the grays that are doing genetic experiments and breeding projects on Earth and other planets where there's humanoids. There's Nordics, there's reptilians. Reptilians are master geneticists. So there's a variety of different ETs doing, extraterrestrials doing genetic experiments and breeding programs. Like reptilians, Nordics, again, grays, and probably other species that look humanoid and can blend in on Earth. By examining historical records, there could be some possibility showing that Jesus, who represented an uncorrupted genetic line, Jesus, warned his disciples about the threat posed by these gray alien interlopers, while Hitler, a pure product of this alien intelligence, waged genocide in an attempt to rid Earth of all those untouched by this genetic tampering. Grays exist wholly in the material world. So if we follow the spiritual laws of reincarnation and karma, aiming for enlightenment and rising above the material estate the Greys are unable to reach, we can free ourselves from their grasp and manipulation. Yes, the robotic Greys, who are in a sense machines, they do follow the materialistic aspect of the world. Some Greys that are biological and taller, they do have an understanding of spirit, karma, and the laws of the universe. So not all Greys tamper with us, not all Greys abduct us or kidnap us. It really depends on what species of Greys you encounter as well. So I don't completely buy into the programming and brainwashing that all Greys are bad and evil. I just don't buy into it, because I've had experiences with Greys that have been positive and quite healing, which I'll talk about a bit here as well. There is a myth that all Grey aliens are evil and create havoc in the universe, as well as being biorobotic entities. This is a partial myth. There are some species of biological Greys that seek to help humans to evolve and heal as a species. These types of Greys are the Silipsi Ra. The Silipsi Ra are a peaceful and harmonious race that help other beings to heal through the teaching of psychic surgery for etheric and technological implant removal and other healing modalities like energy healing. Communication happens with them telepathically, and healing symbols are sent to direct the frequency energies to heal the body, soul, and the mind. The Silipsi Ra also teach universal knowledge through energetic downloads and uploads. They have one main leader, and his name is Yimartin, but when communication happens with the Silipsi Ra, contact is made with various different representatives of the species, especially the healers and teachers. So sometimes you might have 2 or 5 or 10 or 20 Silipsi Ra come in, show themselves telepathically to you, and they have their own councils, healing councils and teaching councils that telepathically engage with you on a learning/teaching level. And that's what happened to me with learning psychic healing and energy healing, working with extraterrestrials. That was done through the Silipsi Ra. Because I do energy healing on my own, but with the Silipsi Ra and other ETs, it's sometimes can be more intense. It can be more in depth. So for me, I enjoy healing of all type, working with just pure energy on my own with others to heal others, or to work with the extraterrestrials and to have my healing augmented with their energies on other levels of existence. So like I said, I don't have any prejudices against gray aliens. I don't have any prejudices against reptilians anymore. Before I did, because I had been abducted by the Black Drazo and Cherub Invictus reptilians, and my autoimmune system had been compromised. But again, I also do healing and entity attachment removal with Zagor, who's a reptilian insectoid hybrid, and he's an engineered being. So his biology, he is biological and he is humanoid, but he also has a smart suit and he's augmented with nanotechnology. So but he's been with me since the Secret Space Program days in Dark Fleet, Nachtwaffen, and Mars bases as well. So he's been with me for quite a long time, and he's come in through channeling, and he's come in healing sessions. So I don't do racial snobbing of extraterrestrials, because I know that there's different types of ETs. There's positives, there's negatives, and there's ones somewhere in the middle who are on the fence, neither negative nor positive, but neutral type of a polarity somewhere in the middle. So honestly, when somebody says, oh my gosh, those grays, they're awful, they're all evil, I say, no, they're not all evil, and they're not all awful. Which species are you talking about? Because there's many species of grays. Same thing goes for reptilians. Somebody might say, oh my gosh, all those reptilians are horrible. They're genetically manipulating us. They're altering our DNA. They're running around behind the scenes, taking over this planet Earth. And I say, which race of reptilians? Not all reptilians are evil. Some reptilians are healers, just some grays are healers. I'm like, which species do you mean? There's thousands of species of reptilians. There's hundreds of species of grays. There's a variety out there in the universe. So if somebody puts a huge label on all grays and reptilians, that's inaccurate. They're not all evil. Not all reptilians are evil. Not all grays are evil. Same goes for humans. Some of us are of a positive polarity, some of us are of a negative polarity, and some of us are in between. It also depends on what we're going through in life and what we're working through. So polarity, positivity, negativity, that could be switched easily. So honestly, all species go through that. So I don't judge extraterrestrials by their looks and by mythology. I get to know the species for myself, and then I decide. So the Calypsira, their civilization is 2 billion years old, once they were at the same level of development as humans. The Calypsira have no colonies, as they are completely focused on the development of other planets and races. Calypsira come from the constellation Cygnus. And they live on one large planet. That planet, when I look at it telepathically, it's called Sigonia. So that's what their planet is called. And when I looked into the Calypsira DNA structure, they're partially grays, and they're also partially humanoid, because they're 5 feet tall. Some of their genetics comes from the Pleiades, the planet called Era. So they are they're hybrids. Genetically, they're gray humanoid type hybrids. So they're not completely gray. And this was from a remote viewing that I did when I was asked this question. Because somebody said, well, they don't look completely gray. They don't have gray skin, and they're taller. What mix of genetics are they of extraterrestrials? So when I had a look, it was that they're part humanoid from the planet Era, where humanoids live in the Pleiades. It's actually a planet. So that's the information I got. According to the Calypsira, the human race in the next few thousands of years still has 645 options left to save themselves, the planet Earth, to guarantee a future for the human race as a species, but it will all depend on the human's ability to travel through space. The Calypsira are a species of friendly grays and are also much more than just grays, like I was saying. They're hybrids. They are 5th to 6th density, 5 feet tall, and they have a peach-colored skin tone. And they do wear clothes. They're not naked. They have a uniform, close-fitted jumpsuit, you would say, or a smart suit. So they're not nude. Somebody asked if they're naked, and I said no, because they're not. They wear clothing. They're biological. They're not robotic. And the next part of this document talks about shadow governments. Shadow governments are elements of rogue groups involving the elites and power brokers, which are embedded in governmental, financial, military, law, and corporate organizations that run black ops operations and manipulate events and situations behind the scenes in order to bring about a type of new world order that unilaterally has control over world governments and individual countries' free will decision making. I don't like to use the word cabal. Some people use elites and the word cabal as part of the shadow governments. To me, cabal just doesn't sound, I don't know, just doesn't sound good to me, really. I don't like the word cabal, so I don't use it. I just say elites and rogue groups. I prefer those terms. The shadow governments are not above blackmail and deception in corrupting lawyers, police officers, bankers, politicians in power and turning them into spies and pawns in world affairs. There is a specific formula that shadow governments operate in by way of having their agents and spies infiltrate legitimate governmental and other agencies, like the three-letter agencies, as an example, and slowly behind the scenes corrupt the establishment so crime and misdeeds are overlooked and covered up. Shadow governments and their rogue elements within different national security agencies like the NSA, FBI, CIA, NSAC, etc. use security cameras, surveillance of your financial transactions, radio frequency spy chips hidden in consumer products, tracking of your internet searches, and eavesdropping on your email and phone calls to control the masses. This is done without your knowledge or consent. Every aspect of your life is observed and recorded. But who is watching the watchers? An ultra-secret global elite functioning as a very real shadow government, or governments. Controls technology, finance, international law, world trade, political power, and vast military capabilities. Those who hold power are invisible to all but a few insiders. These unrivaled leaders answer to no earthly authority, and they won't stop until they control the world. The shadow governments seek to destroy America and other powerhouse countries in order to merge them into the coming global government. One world order government. That's the plan, to take sovereignty away from other countries in this world. In the United States, elements of the shadow government black ops programs have siphoned money from the Pentagon budgets and diverted that money into the black ops budgets for off-world development of the U.S. Navy and military secret space programs. Since the 1950s, building underground bases on the moon as well as mining operations, and military bases on Mars since the 1980s. And this pertains to the shadow government within the United States. And each country potentially has its own shadow government behind the scenes. It's not just in the US. These Black Ops budget funding, so this Black Ops budget funding also goes to aerospace corporations like Lockheed Martin with Skunk Works to develop anti-gravity ships and zero-point technologies, as well as build out the DUMS underground bases and research labs for illegal cloning and genetics projects. The shadow government elements in the White House have also been implementing the UFO and alien embargo, covering up and preventing full disclosure that anti-gravity technology exists, aliens are real, and that there are secret space program operations beyond Earth orbit. Now, secret space programs, there's variations of them in sort of advanced, mid-level advancement, and higher up advancement of technologies and crafts. It's not just the U.S. Navy and military that has secret space programs on the moon and Mars. China, Russia, they also have their own secret space programs. They've had them for a while, so that's something else I wanted to mention. And these are the books that I suggested to read. Gray Aliens and the Harvesting of Souls, The Conspiracy to Genetically Tamper with Humanity by Nigel Kerner. Shadow Government, How the Secret Global Elite is Using Surveillance Against You by Grant R. Jeffrey. Insiders Reveal Secret Space Programs and Extraterrestrial Alliances by Michael Salla. I just want to make a note here. I do like Michael Salla's books about the secret space program and extraterrestrials. The only thing that I'm not taking seriously is the SSP Alliance and the Blue Avians. Claims made by a whistleblower whose name I'm not going to mention. Just, I believe Blue Avians are PSYOPs. And when I was in planetary corporations on the Mars bases and the cybernetics labs, I never met any SSP Alliance that was helping to defeat the Dark Alliance, the dark aspects of the SSP programs. I never saw that. I never experienced that. I was never liberated. And some of my other colleagues who are SSP experiencers, they've said that they also never saw an SSP alliance of any type coming to rescue all of us from the SSP programs. So I believe that this insider had borrowed a lot of materials from other SSP experiencers and put it all in kind of their own testimony, cobbled it up into their huge testimony, adding on and on to the adventures of the Blue Avians and the SSP Alliance. When in fact, those experiences weren't even that person's experiences. They were borrowed experiences and memories from other people in different forums on the internet. So, again, I like Michael Salla's books, minus Blue Avians and minus SSP Alliance. That stuff I don't take seriously. Other things that Michael Salla has researched and reported on in his books, I look at that and I read that, and I also go and try to fact check some of that stuff in other places. And sometimes there's information, so that's more valid to me, reading about logical fact-checked information. So I don't discount Michael Salla's books. Very good research and very well laid out. It's consistent, it's easy to understand, and he tries to fact-check evidence and stuff, except for the Blue Avian and SSP Alliance. I'm sorry, I don't buy into that. It's just, no. The other book that's number 4 on the list is The U.S. Navy's Secret Space Program and Nordic Extraterrestrial Alliance by Michael Salla. Now that's very interesting book. And the Nordics are involved in the U.S. Navy's secret space programs. I saw Nordics on the Mars basis, and I worked with a Nordic. It was a female, and she was a geneticist and a computer specialist. So I worked with her. That was interesting. There's also Antarctica's Hidden History, Corporate Foundations of Secret Space Programs by Michael Salla. Also highly recommended reading. U.S. Air Force Secret Space Program, Shifting Extraterrestrial Alliances and Space Force by Michael Salla. Very good as well. There's his newest book, Rise of the Red Dragon, Origins and Threat of China's Secret Space Program by Michael Salla. Again, I would recommend this reading because Michael Salla is very good and thorough at his research and writing books in an easy to understand language that's interesting to read. When I read research books or something that's important, I hope it resonates with me. The material is clear to understand, it's easy to read, and it makes sense. So that's what I look for in research books. And words and phrases and acronyms that I could actually fact check sometimes. So that's what I read and like to see in books. I know that people associated with that insider have been scrutinized and even called out to, like, why are you working with this person when they've ripped off other people's work and memories and experiences. I do believe that Michael Salla is trying to be sincere and honest because he tries to see the best in people. So his books are very good. And I recommend, if you're trying to learn stuff about the secret space program, the U.S. Navy, U.S. Air Force, and Space Force, Michael Salla's books will give you a very good background on the truth embargo and how these SSPs came to be about off-world. So it's good reading. The other book is Dark Fleet by Len Kasten, and that book actually has some of my own testimony in it. He thought it was sincere, so I guess he put it in his book, and it's interesting to see that testimony there, and I like his book. There's the Omniverse, Transdimensional Intelligence, Time Travel, The Afterlife, and the Secret Colony on Mars by Alfred Lambermont Weber. And this book I quite like because it has case studies about SSP assets, like, for example, Michael Ralph, who talked about time travel, the Mars base that he was on in his 20 and back. So Alfred did a very good job documenting Michael Ralph's case and testimony of the 20 and back. That's very good reading. There's also AD After Disclosure by Richard Dolan, which tries to provide an example of what all of this will look like when disclosure is out. Also good reading. There's The Cover-Up Exposed. The Cover-Up Exposed by Richard Dolan, another good book. And also in the series UFOs and the National Security by Richard Dolan, which I recommend reading because it discusses, again, all this truth embargo stuff and national security of why everything is classified so heavily about UFOs. So Richard Dolan does a good job describing that. So those are the books on my recommended list of what I would read if I'm trying to learn about gray aliens, shadow governments, secret space programs, different branches of the U.S. Navy, military and Space Force that have branched off with secret space programs off-world. So these books really round out my top 12 reading choices. And I read a lot of books, so these are my recommendations. So I think it's important to research things, to look into things, and to make up our own mind what's true and what's not true, or what's in between. I don't just go by myths and legends. Oh, the Greys are all bad, the reptilians are all bad. No, I don't go by that. I go by experience and I go by research, and I go by fact checking when I can. Because honestly, we have to use our best discernment right now. There's so much stuff floating around. People telling their stories, their experiences, coming out, things being reported more openly in drip disclosure. So for me, I don't just believe what somebody says off the top of their head. All aliens are bad. All greys are bad. All reptilians are bad. I don't buy into that, and I don't instantly believe somebody just because they think it and say it. I can think for myself, and I can say things for myself and have my own opinions and free will and choice to believe what I want or not. So I don't just take somebody's word at it. Just take their word for it. I can think for myself, and so can all of us think for ourselves, and we all have discernment and the ability to distinguish what resonates with us and what doesn't, what we want to believe and what we don't. So it's up to all of us to make our own decisions and what we think about what and why and what we believe in. Because again, there's so many different belief systems. I don't buy into belief systems. I don't just put myself in a particular niche of, oh yeah, this is what I am good at. Good at communicating with extraterrestrials. I was an SSP asset. I'm a healer. I don't put myself into these categories because I have experiences with many things in life. And I choose to explore all facets and aspects of those experiences. I won't put myself in a particular niche because there's many categories of things I've experienced in life. So I just choose to explore as much of that as I can with my own experiences, research, and talking to people to see what their experiences are like and what they'd like to say and share with us. So I just wanted to sort of cover that stuff today. So thank you so much, and namaste.